Okay, I have done a ton of filming today. Well, a ton for me as of late, because I just haven't filmed a lot of videos lately, and decided I would try to knock out several all at once tonight. So I'm coming to the end. This is the last one. I'm feeling a little bit short on time now, so I hope that I can give this the attention that I want to give it. I have a feeling I will, because this is about Terminator. Simon put this video up in my Discord server. It's called The Most Perfect Thumbs Up in the History of Film. I believe it is primarily all about the thumbs up at the end of Terminator 2. I love that scene. So let's go ahead and jump right into this and see what they say. I like watching these different sort of video essays about film and different moments in film. It's really entertaining. So I have no doubt that this will be as well. Okay, here we go.
When you think of James Cameron, you wouldn't be wrong if the first thing that comes to mind is an enormous, expensive, technologically revolutionary, badass action set piece, like this one.
We don't count. No, that was Aliens. I thought that was Avatar at first. We don't count that. I wasn't a big, huge fan of that Aliens. I mean, it's okay, but I like the first one better. I love this movie.
But I think you'd be even less wrong if you thought about this. The T-800's hand twisting into a thumbs up on its way into the molten steel at the end of Terminator 2.
I got a shirt with that image on it.
It's the end of the climactic third act that was, of course, chock full of shape-shifting AI and explosions and trucks full of liquid nitrogen. That this moment is the most indelible image in a movie led by a deadly robot from the future is kind of insane. 30 years on, I believe this simple close-up of that time-traveling cybernetic organism's
at the heartstrings,
hand is more
y'all.
affecting than anything else the film has to offer, because Cameron understands one thing that a lot of directors don't. Action movies don't work without moments like this.
I know now why you cry.
Without heart.
And when you step back and look at all the things that had to go right for this one image to be seared into our collective pop culture brains, it's a miracle that it worked. Any good movie needs a payoff. The plan that comes together, or the villain whose uppance has come, or a theme, just an idea that gets set up and seen through to its end. In the case of the T2 thumbs up, its most basic function is a callback, a visual reference to a scene earlier in the film. But this climactic sequence in the steel mill features two prominent callbacks, and it's the very specific placement of them that makes the thumbs up even more brilliant.
And if someone gets upset, you say, chill out. Or you could do combination.
The first of the callbacks
Hasta la vista, baby.
is much more easily recognized, as the line was played for laughs earlier in the film and then called back as a no bullshit perfect action movie one-liner at a critical point in the final act.
Hasta la vista, baby.
It made that phrase very popular, but that's just not something that
it's a 1-2
is
punch
normally
that's in
said.
keeping with the foundation laid by James Cameron at every stage of the film. To back up for just a second, it's important to remember that this movie isn't just about saving the world from the future, or battling sci-fi tropes to bloody and explosive ends. It's got gobs of that stuff, to be sure. That's the narrative level of the film. But the emotional level of the movie, underneath everything else, is about a boy and his robot. But let's start with the narrative function first.
And his very dysfunctional relationship with his mother.
It has to end here.
The film establishes the narrative goal near the midpoint, after John and the T-800 rescue Sarah and head out on the run.
Will these heal up?
Yes.
Good. Can't pass for human, you're not much good to us.
And so, John gets a task, to train this AI to be more human. Their success depends on it. It begins as an imitation of humanity, attempting legitimately unsettling facial
No,
expressions,
it's from one
and
of the
just parroting
cutscenes.
the lines that are fed to him.
Chill out. Dickwad.
That's great. See, you're getting it.
And through this narrative function, the relationship between John and the T-800 begins to form. But there's an inevitability to it that begins to shift gears into a thematic level. Something like destiny in the dynamic between them, that Sarah, a hardened warrior at this point, doesn't see the point in fighting. And it's in this moment where she realizes her son has found a dedicated surrogate father, an artificial companion with which he can form a very real attachment, that we see the thumbs up.
Of all the would-be fathers who came and went over the years, this thing, this machine, was the only one who measured up.
In the setting sun, in slow motion, this is the surreal moment where something squishier is happening. There are no narrative rules being set up here or tangible stakes being established. This shot, coupled with Sarah's musing VO, is all feeling. And so, the narrative function of John's relationship with the Terminator has been coupled with the emotional function of it as well, which is how James Cameron sets up the 1-2 punch of climactic callbacks for the end of the film.
I wish he would make movies like this again, more, instead of the nonsense that is Avatar. Sorry, Colin. I cannot stand that.
But as the T-1000 thaws and reforms in a bit of practical effects wizardry that belongs in a different video, Cameron is telling us that the film is not over. His worlds are not a simple one-liner away from a resolution. The defeat of a mimetic polyalloy killing machine is not what this movie was ever about. Yes, it was hard work.
I need a vacation.
But there's a wholly separate emotional core of the film that has yet to resolve.
No.
Unsuspectingly, we've been set up for one final gut punch and the real resolution to the movie.
I know.
I order you not to go. I order you not to go.
What makes it more effective is that we're not going to see it coming because of the dreamy, offhanded way it was set up half a movie ago. And by the time we get to the thumbs up, we've had a fake-out win, the real narrative win, and now we're settled in and ready to have our cold hearts melted along with the Terminator. But I would argue, and I will right now, that the perfect thumbs up actually started about 10 years prior to T2's release, back when Arnold, shall we say, wasn't at the most rangy stage of his career.
I know now why you cry, but it's something I can never do.
10 years prior to the first tears shed over the thumbs up, Arnold was something of an oddity. He'd worked in movies a bit, and of course he was more famous than any other bodybuilder could ever hope to be, but he
you know, you guys, I have such a level of affection for Arnold, and it's not like it's not like a romantic type of feeling. It's not like that. I mean, I do feel like he's quite attractive, but that's not where the feeling of affection comes from. I have this weird, almost like a familial type of feeling of affection because of how much of an impact he has had on me, on my life. He'll never know that. He'll never know of my existence. I will never get the chance to tell him this. But, you know, when people are sometimes asked, like, what film changed your life, right? And it seems kind of silly, like, how can a movie change your life? I mean, come on, it's a movie. And it would seem even stranger to hear the answer, The Terminator. The Terminator changed my life. All right, that seems really ridiculous, but I was thinking about this a while ago, like, I don't know, months or a year or so ago, maybe less. And the reason is because, so I was super obsessed with that movie. I loved that movie, but it wasn't the love of the movie that fundamentally changed my life. It was my appreciation for Arnold as a person and his fitness. And because I liked him so much, I was so drawn to him as an actor, I was interested in the other stuff that he did and was a part of, which was also, you know, the pumping iron and the bodybuilding and all that stuff. Now, I'm not super into bodybuilding, but because of that aspect of his life, I was very motivated to check it out further. And I got his book. I think it was called Bodybuilding for Women or Body Shaping for Women or something like that. And when I was a teenager, I remember I was in high school in my room using that book to exercise by, like every day or every other day. And that was when I first started regularly exercising. And that became such a fundamental part of my life. That's just like the way I am. That's just part of me. And also just other important parts of fitness and trying to eat healthy and taking care of yourself and things like that. And that all got started. The root of all of that can be traced all the way back to the Terminator because of Arnold Schwarzenegger. So that's why I say the Terminator changed my life. And that's why I have such affection for him. And Arnold has done some of the dumbest crap throughout his life. He's done some really stupid shit. And he has said some really stupid things. Like, you know, the thing that he said earlier this year or last year, you know, screw your freedoms. I thought that was really, really ignorant and irresponsible of him to say something like that, especially considering where he came from. But I still love the guy, and I probably always will. And love completely platonic, not that type of love. And when he's not here anymore, if I'm still around whenever he's gone, that's going to make me so doggone sad. And there's not many actors that, like, I can be sad when an actor is gone or something terrible happens to them, but there's very few that it really just profoundly hurts my heart when they're not here anymore. And one of them is Bill Bixby. Another is going to be Arnold. I don't know why I started just blah, blah, blah. I mean, I was watching a video the other day, a while back, where it was talking about different filming locations for the Terminator. And it was showing this scene where he was walking up into Sarah Connor's, where Sarah Connor lived. And he went to go on to kill her roommate. I thought it was Sarah at first. And it was showing him just walking up the steps. And I was hit by this sudden, horrible, sad, weird mixture of nostalgia and just melancholy. Because this was during his prime. You know, the 80s and 90s was like the peak of his acting career. And a nostalgia also for decades ago when it felt like life was simpler. Yes, I was younger. But it just feels like things are just so gross now with regard to stuff going on in society. And it just felt like a simpler time. And that just made me, that one scene made me so sad. So I started to get that feeling again when it was leading up to this particular part in the video. And so that's why I stopped and rambled on. Okay, I'm going to shut up now and get back to this. Here we go.
Really found his early formula for success with Conan the Barbarian. It was a breakthrough of an epic high fantasy film, and that genre covers all manner of sins.
This is
the
timely.
conceit that the world is magical and distant.
Just did a review for the 40th anniversary showing of this.
To the background. Conan was a stoic and near unstoppable machine of death and destruction created by a harsh world. Conan's allure is based on the imagery, not empathy, from Arnold's Mr. Universe physique all the way to the final image of Conan aged and on his throne. The success of the film spawned a sequel that would come out in the same year as Cameron's first Terminator.
I remember my brother Matt used to love that scene.
Schwarzenegger's career. Here's a villain performance that's a cold, blank screen on which the audience can project their fears for the future. AI was a potential terror that most audiences in the early 80s didn't truly understand. And here was an actor giving a silent and intimidating performance of the unfeeling menace that could be in store for humanity. If Conan revealed Arnold's strengths as a performer, they weren't used to their fullest potential until the Terminator.
You asshole.
From there, Arnold's career highlights would see him gradually lean into leading man charisma. The Mostly a Documentary Pumping Iron had introduced moviegoers to
Mostly a documentary.
One and only Arnold Schwarzenegger.
The real Arnold in this partly dramatized film was downright charming and kind of a prick in a really funny way.
And then she's gonna fix me up to your sister.
Like any of the thousands of muscles on display in his bodybuilding contests, it took time and effort to
Arnold
temper
also
his
reminds me a lot of my brother.
with the same type of magnetism.
Stick around.
But in the 7 years between delivering one of the most iconic movie lines in history,
I'll be back.
and making good on that promise, the roles that were all stoic purveyors of violence gave way to killers with principles, and eventually kindergarten cops. The point is, the 80s got Arnold ready to sell a face turn with the T-800. And this whole section of the video is just to make the point that the thumbs up doesn't work if the arc within the movie of the T-800 learning to be human doesn't also work.
There's no fit but what we make for ourselves.
The hints that Cameron and Schwarzenegger dropped throughout the film, the subtle reactions to John pulling a high five, the Cheshire grin as he poses with the minigun, even the moments immediately before being lowered into the molten steel, are all moments that Schwarzenegger earlier in his career most likely couldn't sell. But in Judgment Day, they're also all in service of landing one last bit of evidence that John and the Terminator's relationship was meaningful. There's a boy and his pet imagery throughout most of the film, with John teaching his shiny new T-800 tricks. By the end, then, it gives the thumbs up an added layer. It's saying that the T-800 has learned his tricks perfectly, with one last nuanced performance on its way to completing his mission. But the thumbs up is also directed at John, who's lived begrudgingly with his mom's insistence that he become a great leader. And this final message from his T-800 is also encouragement after a job well done. When the movie opens, John is a delinquent with a record, stealing his foster parents' ATM card and hacking their PIN to steal cash and joyride at the Sherman Oaks Galleria. He's even bitter about his mom. He's a kid with no allegiance to anybody. Then a robot assassin from the future becomes a surrogate father and makes him cry. It's incredible that Cameron would rely on the heart in a movie about murderous robots from the future trying to kill us. Should not have been surprising. Even at that point in his career, he's always had a track record of expertly tying the emotional stakes of a story to the action. With Aliens, he transitioned a haunted house sci-fi thriller about space truckers who wanted hazard pay into a full-blown action spectacle, but grounded the film with a surrogate-parent relationship between Ripley and Newt, a woman out of her own time and a little girl who was just as stranded.
Hard to believe there's a little girl under all this.
The Abyss was a film that blazed new trails with visual effects, but the most incredible moment in the whole film is the silence during a scene where Ed Harris tries desperately to resuscitate the woman he loves in Mary Elizabeth Masters.
I never forgot that scene, you guys. I saw this movie only once. That scene stuck in my brain forever because that was just, it was so just heart-stopping watching this scene and not knowing what was going to happen. Yeah, that seared itself into my brain forever. It was a good movie, but I don't remember much about, I mean, I remember I liked it because it was a good movie. And I remember, you know, the little water thing, because I know that was sort of like the precursor to the T-1000. But wow, yeah, this movie, woof. That scene.
Only to have her do the same for him a few scenes later. The truth is, practically anybody can drain the LA River and have a semi-truck plow into it. But it's moments like the thumbs up that show his mastery of filmmaking infinitely more than any camera he could ever invent. James Cameron doesn't just blow shit up, he breaks your heart too.
Yeah, he breaks your heart. He breaks your heart when he stops making excellent films like this and moves on to making absolutely ridiculous, over-the-top, nonsensical fluff pieces with terrible writing and very thin storylines instead. I'm on a bit of a rant. I was getting ready to say something. The scene where John was using his little ATM card pin cracking thing. I was watching a filming locations video for T2. And I think, if I remember correctly, that particular building is now like owned by some sort of church or like Scientology or something. And so they have this wall around it and it's like guarded or gated or something. I think I might be incorrect, but it's something like that. I'm pretty sure it's the bank. And yeah, those videos are really fun to watch. But well, this was a great video. Thanks for sharing this on the Discord, Simon. I really appreciated being able to watch this and enjoyed it a lot. I mean, I felt like I would, but I was like, oh, I'm kind of running late on time and I got all this stuff to do. And I felt like my brain would be sort of preoccupied, especially with all the filming I've done tonight. But no, it wasn't. And yeah, this was great. I love this video essay. This was wonderful. You know, I love stories. I love to talk about stories. I love to review movies. I love to review shows and things like that. That's my favorite thing that I like to work on for the channel. It's not necessarily the content that is the most enjoyed or appreciated by the people that watch the stuff that I upload, but that's my favorite thing to do. And I have words to say about these different movies that I talk about, obviously, but I have such appreciation for people that can write this wonderful essay about these sorts of things and just analyze in detail certain aspects of scenes in the movie and the importance and tie it back to, I mean, we all knew when we were watching it and we see the thumbs up and the other things that tie into that final scene, we knew it's harkening back to points earlier in the movie, but the way he sort of told the story and wrapped it up and explained it in such great detail, he's putting to words the emotion that we, the rest of us feel, myself, let's say, but I can't necessarily super analyze it in depth the way this guy did. Now, if I were in college and I had to write an essay about it or paper or whatever, yeah, okay, I could. I did decent writing on papers in college and stuff like that, but I hated it. It would be a chore to do something like that now. But I really appreciate watching and listening to the material that other people give us when they do stuff like this. So this was great. And that's it. I definitely have to wrap it up for the night because I have a lot of stuff I have to do. Yeah. And it's already almost 11:30. Okay, guys. Bye.